it is our great honor at Unity FM and here at Unity to welcome our special guest today, Echart Tolle.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, one of our co-founders, Myrtle Fillmore, this has been her vision and Charles's vision, and to have you here is such an honor. One of the things that she wrote, there's a letter that she wrote, is the oldest handwritten letter that Myrtle has been found by Myrtle Fillmore, and in it, this is from 1891, and I brought this quote because it speaks so much to what you talk about in both of your books. She says, "My dear, you ask why you do not enter into the understanding you so desire. I will tell you. You are already in it, but you think you have some great thing to do to get there. The kingdom of God is within you. All you need to do is be still and know."
Yes, that's right.
So that would be, would you like to add to that, or?
Well, the human mind has been conditioned over thousands of years to seek fulfillment elsewhere in space and time, and especially in time. So the human mind has been conditioned to look to the future or the next moment. Future sounds a little abstract. If we say the next moment, then we can actually feel what that means. It always looks to the next moment, or most of the time, for fulfillment, completion. And in this way, the human mind, the conditioning of the human mind, denies life, because the only place where life takes place, the only place where life happens is in the present moment, now. And outside the now there is no life. And even past and future don't actually exist outside human thought forms. Now this may sound a little bit difficult at first to believe, because past and future seem so real. Mm-hmm. But all you have to, this is not a philosophical exercise, it's easier than that. All you have to ask yourself is whether you've ever experienced past or future. And then if you look closely, you realize all you ever experienced was now. And when it happened, it was now, because it's only in the space of now that, where anything can happen. And when the future comes, it can only come as the now. So, past and future are thought forms. They may be necessary on a practical level here. We can make appointments and get together here at this particular time. But when it goes beyond practical, then they actually represent a great limitation when they take over our lives. Then time, past and future are called time, time then takes over our consciousness. And so that this is the time-bound state of consciousness that most people are possessed by, and it is an essential aspect of the egoic consciousness. The ego lives in and through time, ego being the false, mind-made sense of self. And so it comes as a surprise to people when they realize, well, it's actually true. My life is always now, and is never not now, and never will be not now, never has been. And that is not just an idea that you add to your mind, the fact that life is always now. This is almost like a little powerful pointer. It's always now, and really that almost stops your mind. If you really get that, to experience the truth of that statement, you have to step beyond the mind, because by continuing to think analytically, is it actually true that there's only the now? Let me think. It's a pointer that takes you, when you truly experience the reality of that, actually takes you into the now, and then there is an opening inside, there is a space that opens up inside, and you say, this is it. And what is this? You can't quite at first define what this is, but all you know for the time being is this is life. Life itself is experienced now. And so, for most people, now is what happens in the now. And that's why people believe that there are many different moments. Every hour consists of many different moments. Every day consists of many moments. But if you look more closely, of course, there are not many moments. There's only ever this moment. And the reason why people believe there are many moments is because they confuse the now with what happens in the now. What happens, of course, changes continuously. The now itself, however, is something that is, the moment we define it through words, of course, we limit it. And yet, knowing that words are not quite it, all words can only point to it, we can continue to talk for a little bit about the now. So, the now then is the space in which everything happens, or the light in which everything appears. And the light in which things appear and disappear, they come. This is how everything continues change in life. The impermanence of that the Buddha speaks of. Everything continuously changes. It comes into the light of now. But the essence of every experience is the light of consciousness, which is the space of now. So the secret of now is that it is the formless foundation of all manifested life. It is the unmanifested, formless dimension in which the manifested appears. And in essence, you are that light. And knowing that yourself as that is not done through thinking. It is not a thought that you add to your mind and say, okay, I'm light. Okay, now I know it. You can only know yourself as the light if thought stops, even if only for this moment. And you sense that underneath all the things that happen, sense perceptions, thoughts, emotions, feelings, there remains the substratum, which is space, the space of consciousness itself, which we could also call the stillness. Every word only shows you a tiny aspect of it. It's not it. It's stillness, and it's vaster than stillness. It's consciousness, but even that limits it because it's only a word. So finding that space in yourself, and this is what the quote is about, you can only find that space in yourself now, because essentially it is the now. So who you are at the deepest level is inseparable from the now. And so that's the deepest meaning of now. And it's a realization. Just one glimpse is enough to change your life. It doesn't mean that the time-bound consciousness won't take you over again. It will probably happen. But you've had the glimpse, that is the initiation of the awakening process. And anybody who can see the truth of this must already have had the glimpse. Or in the moment of words like these being spoken, some people at that moment have the glimpse and wake up. And so you realize the essence of yourself has nothing to do with the form of yourself, the body, whatever thoughts go through your mind, whatever emotions you have, that's fine, that's a level of form. I call it the human part, but we are human beings. Human is form, being is formless. Most humans know only the human part and identify totally with the human part, which is the physical form, the thoughts forms, the emotional forms. They all these, you identify with external forms, possessions, achievements, this, that, and that becomes but really external forms are also thought forms. They get translated into mental images. So you're really always identified with mental images. Even my car, you're not really identified with my car, but with the mental image of my car. So that is the world of form, that's the human. And if that's all you know, then you're lost in the world, because this world is the world of form. Mm-hmm. And most people still live like that, lost in the world, which implies lost in their minds. That's where the world starts. And the world being the world of form. And underneath it all is the timeless dimension, the spiritual dimension, the sacred dimension. And that's the essence of who you are. And that is the deepest meaning of now.
And we access that through the stillness, through the
Yes.
silence?
Yes. You could say the stillness, the silence is it. But you cannot, of course, ever objectify it. You can't say, there it is. That's why Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven does not come with signs to be perceived.
Yes.
Because if it's a sign, you say, oh, there it is, the kingdom of heaven, there it's coming. It doesn't. First, of course, it cannot come because it's already here. And it can't be there because it's the essence of here. It's here.
Well, to experience that, do we have to, when I think of going into silence, I think of this quiet, meditative state. Is it possible to experience that as we are doing in our life?
Yes. And this is the part of the art of living in this world, of conscious living in this world, so that you are able to balance in your life the two dimensions, form and formlessness, world and spirit, so that you're a bridge, so to speak. You as this human being are the bridge between the being and the human, the world, form and formlessness. And across this bridge flows something into this world from the timeless, sacred dimension that is not to be found. It is not to be found in somewhere in space or time. God, you could say. God is not found in space or time. God is not hiding somewhere in outer space. We know that by now. Even conventional Christianity is beginning to realize that God is not out there somewhere, although, well, anyway, let's not.
It's okay.
So, we are here bridging the two worlds, and through you, as you live consciously, the dimension of the sacred or the divine or the timeless flows through you, through your words, if you're conscious and present, through your actions, not necessarily big significant actions. Every action is significant. Even lifting a cup, consciousness can flow into that, presence can flow into that, and a power when you interact with other humans, and you're not preparing mentally what you're going to say, you're not judging them in any way, you are the space for them. That means, at that moment, something through you as this form, something from the formless, the sacred dimension of God, flows into this world of form. And in a strange way, it gradually transforms the world of form. The world of form loses its density and heaviness. And this, what I'm describing, is actually the deepest meaning of love, because when this flows into what you say, do, into your interactions, that space is essentially what love is, not the egoic understanding of love which says, I need you, don't you ever dare leave me. But the love that recognizes that whatever you see out there in the world of form is a manifestation or an appearance in disguise, disguised as that particular temporary form of who you are in your essence, on the formless. So there's always a self-recognition when that dimension is open and flows through you into this world. When I say you, at this moment I mean the form of you, but it's ultimately not who you are, it's just an appearance. And that's our mission then, is to bring that dimension of consciousness into this world, and that is what the universe wants. And if we bring this dimension of consciousness into what we do and say, especially into interactions, we are fulfilling not only our purpose as humans, we are fulfilling the purpose of the universe, because the universe is moving continuously towards the greater and greater expression of consciousness. And gradually, I don't want to go too much into this, but my feeling is that gradually matter is becoming, through this, matter gradually becomes spirit and loses its density.
Well, would you like to lead us into that stillness? I know we would all be very honored to experience that, and it is our tradition in Unity to begin with prayer and stillness and meditation.
Well, we can, but the strange thing also happens when these words are spoken. You can actually experience in the background, you're hearing the words, you understand the words without needing to analyze them, and in the background of your perceptions there is already the space. So even as we speak, in order to find the space, it is not necessary, it can be helpful from time to time to go into stillness, a wonderful thing to do, but it is not confined to moments of stillness. The question is whether you are able to be aware in the background of your life, and that means, of course, now, whether you can be aware of this thing that is not, cannot be defined. We could call it, can you be aware of the consciousness that you are? Can you be aware of the awareness that you are? Not the awareness of something, the awareness of awareness. Can you sense the presence that you are? Yes, and again, it's not as Jesus said, you can't say, oh yeah, I've got it now. Or you can't say, okay, I have achieved presence, and then claim, because you can only have it now.
Right.
You can't say, now I have it, I'm an achiever of presence. Or even if you say, I'm enlightened, it's dangerous to say that, because you're forming another form identity. You give yourself another form identity and imply that I'm going to be present forever. But there's only now, so the only question is, are you able to sense this background to all experience right now and still be able to deal with things, perceive things, even take action, so that there's always a stillness in the background, even while you talk to people. What do we need to do now? One can lose oneself so easily when you begin to use your mind. Start words flow, they come out of you and they come out of the other person. And there's an enormous momentum behind the human mind, thousands of years of unconsciousness. And so the human mind is used to drawing your entire consciousness and using it, making thoughts, more and more thoughts. So for many people still, all their consciousness is thought. Form takes the form of thought. They are not aware that underneath thought there is the vastness of unconditioned consciousness, out of which the thoughts, thoughts are not separate from consciousness, they are a form that consciousness takes. And then the question is whether consciousness identifies completely with a form and loses its self-consciousness, or whether the forms can arise and you are still conscious of the background, of the space of awareness. And as you say, it can be helpful to at first to find it in moments of, and you say, okay, I'm going to be still now, still. And perhaps many of you perhaps already practicing that. This is an advanced spiritual group, so I'll tell you what it is. It's to be able to simply say, there's nothing to think about now, so why should I think? There's no need to think. To voluntarily say, I will surrender right now, I'll surrender thought, relinquish thought. And what's left? Now, two things are possible now. You can either fall below thought and or you rise above thought. That is an alertness, relaxed alertness, still alertness. You rise above thought. And you can then, this is could be a spiritual practice, you can practice perceiving things through stillness, without naming, without labeling. Whether you use auditory perception or visual perception or tactile, doesn't matter. The predominant sense is, for most people, is the visual. So you look around, you see everything, you even somehow know what it is you're looking, but you're not defining it and limiting it by calling it something. That means the mystery of life is still there. You have not reduced the mystery and the incredible beauty of this by calling it something and then believing if you attach a name to it, you know what it is. There's always, this is a great illusion, if you call it, if you have, I don't know what that plant is, but if I knew it, if you call it something.
Ficus.
Yes. And then most people believe now they know what it is.
True.
Nothing has happened, you've just attached a sound to it.
And it's not even a real ficus.
Yeah. So, but even inanimate objects are intensely alive. Everything is mysterious, and the mystery is there surrounding you, the universe, and the delusion is that by naming it, that suddenly you know what it is. So here the spiritual practice is to refrain from naming and labeling mentally. And that's the beauty. You practice at first in easy environments. Out in nature is helpful, easier than being in a city, because in a city everything is man-made and can stimulate thought, especially if you see writing everywhere, advertising, and that stimulates thought. It's very hard to look at something written and then not let that become a thought. You'd have to turn it around, upside down, and then perhaps it works. But even then the mind will try to figure out what's it saying. So out in nature, anything natural, just looking, listening, and this is being there fully, no matter where it is. You're absolutely present then. You're above thought, in the state of alert presence. And everything becomes alive. Mm-hmm. You suddenly realize that when you were immersed in thinking and always labeling everything mentally, the universe was no longer alive to you. You couldn't sense the aliveness of the universe anymore. And unfortunately, millions still live like that. They inhabit a universe that has become deadened by mental abstractions, continuous thinking, because every thought is some form of abstraction. It's not it. So the practice then is to bring that alert presence into perceptions and look around. You even do it in your room too, when you sit in your bedroom or your living room. sit there for a while and just look around. It's just to practice, can I perceive without this compulsion to label everything? And that's a beautiful thing to do. As perceptions become innocent. This is why Jesus said, unless you become like little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of God. He means that those are little children whose minds have not yet started to conceptualize everything and judge everything. And yet it's not quite the same as a little child, because you have already transcended thought. The little child is still at a pre-thought level, and you have gone through it, so there's an added depth or dimension to that state, but it has certain similarities with the state of the innocent perception of a child. And imagine if you can bring that into human interactions, so that whoever you meet, any human being you meet, you don't label them. You just are there as the space for that perception of that. And so another way of putting this is that you are here as the aware space rather than as a person.
Yes.
So the aware space, the being part of the human, becomes more important than the human. The human is still honored to the level of form. Yes, you have a name, you have a personal history, but you no longer derive your identity from your personal history, which after all is only a story you tell yourself in your head. Mm-hmm. And certain emotions that still go with that story. That's your personal history. Your personal history consists of thought and your photo albums. And your photo albums are not going to survive for that long either. Yes. So 2 generations later, they end up in some antique store, and then somebody looks at them and all they see is some human form.
Who's that?
I wonder who that was.
We're talking today with Eckhart Tolle, and more information is online at www.eckharttolle.com. We thank you for being with us for this very special edition of The Leading Edge.